Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Israeli leaders in Jerusalem are hailing newly strengthened bonds with America in the wake of U.S. President Donald Trump's landmark visit to the Jewish state. The trip was marked with ceremony, statements, and symbolism, all reinforcing the unbreakable ties between the two nations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the Republican leader as a true friend of his country. Trump said he was honored to come to Israel for the very first time in his life. He also made history by becoming the first sitting president to pray at the Western Wall, the holiest site in Judaism. During the state visit, Trump underscored his intent to further bolster relations with Israel, bring peace to the region, and defeat Islamist terrorism. Later, the president's wife, Melania, and his Jewish daughter, Ivanka, and her husband, presidential advisor Jared Kushner, also prayed among the ancient stones of the Western Wall, the site where both biblical temples once stood. In addition, the Trumps visited the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, revered by Christians as the place where Jesus was crucified by the Romans.
There were widespread Palestinian protests against the Trump visit. During a riot outside Jerusalem, Arab demonstrators waved pictures of the American leader defaced with shoe prints, which is considered one of the most demeaning insults in Islam. The posters also denounced American policy as a shame for humanity and a breach of Palestinian rights. Transcripts were released of a Muslim cleric's address from the Al-Aqsa Mosque in which he called President Trump the White House Satan and referred to the president's Mideast tour as a crusader war against Islam. He also prayed to Allah to annihilate the president and the entire Jewish people. At other violent rallies in Gaza, Palestinians burned effigies of Trump. They also set fire to pictures of the U.S. president and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, as well as the two allies' national flags. In related news, Hamas has clarified that its newly revised policy statement is not a substitute for its founding charter and that the Islamist group remains committed to Israel's destruction. Hamas leaders stress that the document that was released in Qatar on May 1st is not meant to replace their 1988 covenant, which explicitly calls for the Jewish state to be destroyed in an armed Arab insurrection. These latest statements were issued to refute speculation by many Mideast analysts that the new Hamas document had indicated some sort of a softening of its stance toward Israel.
A leading Tel Aviv think tank insists that any future Mideast peace accord must include justice for the 900,000 Jews expelled from Arab lands in the wake of Israel's founding. The May policy paper from the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies points out that the plight of these Jewish refugees has almost completely been ignored. Jews who had been living in Arab lands for centuries were subjected to persecution and numerous pogroms in the 1940s and 50s. This was despite the fact that they had in no way harmed their Arab neighbors, unlike local Arabs in Israel who waged war against the new Jewish nation. Property expropriated from Jews fleeing for their lives is today valued at hundreds of billions of dollars. The majority of Arab states are not only unwilling to pay compensation to the expelled Jewish communities, but refuse to acknowledge that the atrocity even occurred.
Arab residents of Hebron have just elected the convicted murderer of 6 Israelis to serve as the next mayor of the biblical city. Taser Abu Snine ran on the ticket of the ruling Palestinian Fatah party. In 1980, he and 4 other terrorists opened fire on a group of Jewish seminary students. 6 were killed in the attack, including 2 American citizens and 1 Canadian national. 16 others were wounded. Fatah immediately hailed the assailants as heroes and described the bloodshed of innocents as a courageous operation. The killers were captured and sentenced to life terms, but freed in later prisoner exchanges.
Tony Abbott, the former Prime Minister of Australia, has just been awarded an honorary doctorate from Tel Aviv University. A film about the politician's life was screened during the award ceremony. Abbott served as Premier of the land down under from 2013 to 2015. This past January, he publicly stated that if the U.S. moves its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, Australia should follow suit. Abbott also called on Canberra to demonstrate its unswerving support for Israel by cutting the $40 million of annual aid it gives to the Palestinian Authority, as long as the PA continues to pay pensions to terrorists and their families.
Coral in the Red Sea has been found to be almost miraculously resistant to global warming. While underwater ecosystems have been deteriorating worldwide due to rising sea temperatures, a new Israeli-Swiss study has determined that coral in the Gulf of Aqaba is continuing to flourish. The researchers concluded that the corals adapted to the geography and the history of the local environment amid thermal temperatures that rose at the end of the last ice age. This remarkable evolution has led scientists to believe that Israel's vibrant marine reefs could one day be used to reseed cultures that have been dying in suboptimal conditions in the seas and oceans of less lucky nations.
Archaeologists excavating 6th century churches near the Sea of Galilee believe they've uncovered what may be the tomb of an unknown saint. The discovery was in the ancient city of Hippos, which was one of the Decapolis, or 10 regional cities in the Eastern Roman Empire, today occupied by Israel, Jordan, and Syria. Relics found at the site include 5,000-year-old shards from the Copper Age, as well as the ruins of an ornate 1,700-year-old Roman villa. But the team was particularly fascinated by a wooden sarcophagus decorated with marble and crosses. Even after the church fell into disuse, access to the tomb remained possible, in a sign the deceased was venerated by many of the world's earliest Christians.
All of Israel and supporters of the Jewish state celebrated Jerusalem Day on May 24th, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the city's reunification. Israel's victory over the Jordanian army during the 1967 Six-Day War once again assured the freedom of worship in the city to people of all faiths. A central, powerful message emanated throughout the many speeches, fireworks, and other festivities: that Jerusalem will always remain the eternal, united capital of the Jewish people, as it has for the past 3,000 years.
Write these words down, because they are the terms of the covenant I have made with you and with Israel.
Tens of thousands of Bible-believing Christians are learning the language of the Bible. Gain a deeper understanding of the Scripture. Discover the hidden meaning of the Bible that has been lost in translation for centuries. Our dedicated staff of teachers are centered in the heart of Jerusalem to help you learn the language that was spoken by our forefathers and prophets. Join the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies online course and learn the language of the Bible today. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful sunny day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Leah Goldsmith. She's the founder of Friends of Itamar. Leah, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Tell our viewers a little bit about, first of all, what is Itamar? Where is Itamar?
Thank you. Itamar is located in the very heart of Eretz Yisrael, the very heart of Israel, facing the mountains of the blessing and the curse, Mount Gerizim and Mount Abel. It is the first place that Abraham came to when he entered the land of Israel. The first place Jacob came to when he returned with all the tribes. The first place Joshua and the children of Israel entered after leaving Egypt.
Leah, tell us a little bit about what is the Friends of Itamar?
The Friends of Itamar is an organization that helps the people that live as the watchmen on the wall, safeguarding and securing the very heartland of the land of Israel. We are building schools, we are helping our farmers with very important agricultural projects. We are also getting it ready, getting the ground ready for the time to come, preparing it.
You know, in Itamar, it's also mentioned in the Bible. Where exactly is biblical Itamar?
Biblical Itamar really is right down the road from our home. It is named after the son of Aaron, the high priest, who was buried right there. Itamar and Eleazar, the sons of Aaron.
One of the things that we know about Itamar is the horrible tragedy that befall the Sogel family when they were attacked in the middle of the night. Their children were murdered by Palestinian terrorists. How much of an impact did that have on the community of Itamar?
Well, I'll have everyone know that unfortunately that was not the first incident that happened on Itamar. We go back to the beginning of the Oslo Accords. Over 22 people that lived in our community were murdered. It is the highest ratio, unfortunately, of Palestinian Muslim jihad attacks on an innocent community. I think that what happened with Fogel only made us realize more how important Friends of Itamar is in helping the people from the outside that care about the land of Israel and its people be more secured in where they live.
You know, Palestinian terrorists, as you mentioned, are trying to murder the people of Itamar just for living there.
Right.
So why does the community grow in population every year?
Well, it says in the Bible that we're a stiff-necked people. And I think that when God promises a promise, like he did in the end of days, in restoring and redeeming the land, collecting the people from the four corners of the earth, and bringing them back home. Well, we can even see that greater in the book of Ezekiel, where Ezekiel is looking at the bones, the dry bones, that all come together and stand as one nation returned in the land. So, yes, we face literally life and death issues, the blessing and the curse, as I mentioned. We look at it every day, but we know that God is really blessing us because he's keeping his promise.
You know, more and more people are going to visit Itamar. What's
Yes.
there to see? Why would someone come to Israel and go to Itamar?
Amazing views, vistas, hills, valleys, mountains. Every place you look, every angle, there is another biblical story. We're facing the tomb of Joseph. This is the land that Joseph was promised. He was given a double portion, and the land is blessed, a double fold. So we're really practicing also on bringing the ancient hills of Samaria to life. You'll see that what was once gray and dry, barren, thorns and rocks, suddenly becoming a paradise of green produce that we truck out every day all over Israel. And also another very important thing is that we use kind to the earth methods of agriculture so that everything is organic. The chickens are not in coops, they're walking freely, and the wheat is growing green in the fields. We're going to be picking it now on Shavuot, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful sight of restoration.
You know, the last presidential administration in America, Obama's administration, called the settlers, first of all, he called you settlers, and then he said that the settlers are the biggest obstacle to peace, whereas President Trump has come out and said they're not an obstacle to peace. How much of a change do you expect to see now that there's more of a little support towards the community coming from the American administration?
Let's hope and pray that that will be so, but as I said, when God promises a promise, he keeps it. So all the people involved are really just being used by God to bring this to fruition. So I believe that now we're stepping forward in a more positive direction, and it's great to have the backing, especially of the best country in the world, the United States. And we look forward to cooperation, and we'd like to invite the President and the Ambassador and all the people watching right now to come and visit us on Itamar.
Leah, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
My message is the heart of Israel is the heart of the world. Please come join us, and please give Friends of Itamar a little more attention and think about safeguarding the people that are standing as the watchmen on the wall of the very heart of Israel.
Thank you, Leah, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Today, you will witness the fulfillment of biblical prophecy through the gathering of the exiles. God bless you from Jerusalem.
Me and my family always prayed to come to Israel because it's a home, it's our home. 10 months ago, I made Aliyah with my sister. We are living together in Haifa. I'm worrying about my family because the situation in Ukraine now really terrible.
The past decade and a half has witnessed a frightening upsurge of worldwide anti-Semitism, unparalleled since the 1930s. Across Europe, incitement, desecration of Jewish institutions, attacks on Jewish property, and acts of terror, including murder, are striking fear into Jewish communities. From London to Berlin, Brussels to Copenhagen, Jews are being harassed, assaulted, and murdered. The situation is particularly intolerable in France and in Ukraine. In France, violent crimes against Jews have become commonplace.
Avec la multiplication des actes antisémites en France, donc déjà j'ai peur pour moi, mais j'ai aussi peur pour ma famille, pour ma femme, pour mes enfants plus tard.
In eastern Ukraine, over 1 million people have been displaced. In the escalating chaos and lawlessness, Jews have once again become scapegoats, with many anti-Semitic incidents reported.
When I was in school, my classmates told me that, oh, you're Jewish, it's not normal in Ukraine, why you are Jewish? It was very hard for me to speak with them, to describe every time what I do in Ukraine and why I'm Jewish.
I will give to you and your descendants after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession. But Israel has always been the homeland of the Jewish people. Throughout their 2,000-year exile, the Jews prayed daily to return to the land of Israel. In 1917, Great Britain issued the Balfour Declaration. In 1920, Keren HaYesod was established to raise funds for this purpose. Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Keren HaYesod has helped bring 3.5 million olim to Israel from the four corners of the earth.
This is Bible prophecy come into fulfillment. It's not just my heart, but I can feel the heart of Abba Father. Abba Father in heaven is so pleased to see his children who are scattered all around the globe is coming back home.
From India to Africa to Europe, record-breaking numbers of Jews are eager to come home. Aliyah rose dramatically in the past year, hitting a 10-year high despite the security threats that face Israel. Keren HaYesod operates in 45 countries throughout the world. The Keren HaYesod law, passed by the Knesset in January 1956, grants the organization a unique fundraising status. In close coordination with the government and the Jewish Agency for Israel, and in partnership with the global Jewish community and Friends of Israel, Keren HaYesod promotes Aliyah and other national priorities. We need you, dear friends, to be our partners in this noble mission of helping the people of Israel return home before the window of opportunity slams shut and live safely in its secured homeland. Keren HaYesod, with your generous assistance, has redoubled its efforts to facilitate every Jew who wishes to fulfill the biblical prophecy. Friends of Israel, the Holy Land and its people needs you now. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth.
Come join Keren HaYesod in fulfilling biblical prophecy. Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Warfare in the 21st century is fought not only on battlefields. It's fought on television screens, it's fought on the internet, and ultimately it'll be fought in international courts. as combatants defending Western democracies, will be accused of war crimes, of killing needlessly civilians behind whom our enemies hide and behind whom they shoot. That is why back in 2003, President George Bush, on the eve of America's invasion of Iraq, moved forward legislation called the American Servicemen's Protection Act. That act said explicitly that should any enemy of the United States try to sue American soldiers for war crimes in international courts, the United States would take express action against those countries or those organizations, including leveling sanctions and boycotting those countries and organizations. And what's really fascinating about the American Servicemen Protection Act is that it mentions not once but 3 times the need to extend that protection to America's allied forces. And that is a very important note for the State of Israel as America's most crucial and valued democratic ally in the Middle East, an ally which is fighting for its safety and existence every day and fighting against the same type of enemy who hides behind civilians as they try to kill our civilians and tries to accuse us of war crimes and thus sue us in international courts and deny us ultimately the right to defend ourselves and to deny us ultimately the right to exist as a sovereign, independent Jewish state. Therefore, it is in Israel's interest and in America's interest that the terms of the American Servicemen's Protection Act be extended, as that act says, to America's allies, particularly its greatest and most devoted democratic ally in the Middle East, the State of Israel.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Please stay tuned for the ICJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
We're Bunny and Bob Layton, and we first came to Israel in 1983, and that's when we were introduced to the International Christian Embassy of Jerusalem.
To be quite frank, we came to Israel for all the wrong reasons. I was pretty burnt out, and the bottom line is it was a chance to be here in Israel, and we came. And unexpectedly on the Mount of Olives, we believe we heard from the Lord that we'll be coming back for many years to be blessed by the Jewish people and to bless the Jewish people. We had no idea what that meant until the very next morning when we were introduced to the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem.
We began working each year at the Feast of Tabernacles here with the International Christian Embassy and have been doing that since 1996.
Well, the Bible really came alive during the Feast of Tabernacles because all the nations of the world, at that point we had about 110, I believe, that came up to Jerusalem. We had like 10,000 people, and it was like coming home to a family. It's really coming home that I'd never experienced before, and seeing all the people of the world at every feast we've been to since then for the last 20 years, it's like seeing a huge family reunion. That's really a blessing to our hearts.
I get more out of coming to Israel than you all get from me. It's a delight of my heart to do this.
I think one of the most exciting parts of it early in the ministry is wanting to help Jews come from the North Country, as the Bible predicts in Jeremiah, to come back to the land of Israel. And at this point in time, I think the embassies brought back from Ethiopia and Russia and different places around the world something like 125,000, new Orleans to make immigration to Israel. That's just fantastic that the Christians around the world would support that effort of bringing people up, making Aliyah to come up to Jerusalem to live here.
And I like the faithfulness of the staff to publish the needs of the embassy. They make it very easy to just read and see where your heart is quickened and where you want to participate, maybe that month or maybe that season.
Our partnership for the embassy for really the last 35 years is a working, loving, caring partnership. And it's a real friendship. It's not just a business situation or just to donate money, okay? It comes from the heart.
The ICEJ makes it easy for you to participate in all different kinds of facets of helping out in Israel, whether you can come here or be a provider from afar with prayers and financial support.
Once in a lifetime, there comes a moment that not only changes a nation, it changes the world. It was the realization of a 2,000-year-old dream that altered the course of history. During the turmoil of the Six-Day War, an opportunity emerged to reunify the single most important city in the world. And on June 7, 1967, the dream became a reality.
השעה 10:20, 7 ביוני, ברגע זה אנו עוברים את שער האריות. הר הבית בידינו, כאן תמיד, הר הבית בידינו. אתה אדוני מנחם ציון ובונה ירושלים.
The Feast of Tabernacles 2017 marks 50 years since a divided city became united again.
You don't want to miss this historic and prophetic opportunity to celebrate with us 50 years of a reunited Jerusalem. Come to Jerusalem on the 6th to the 11th of October 2017 and celebrate with us the Feast of Tabernacles right here in the city of God.
Register today at feast.icej.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.